I look after the eBay Foundation. We're committed to supporting entrepreneurship. And for us, that work begins here in San Jose with a focus on inclusion and social justice. I am joined by my colleagues Ali Alboni and Sarah Davison. We are just thrilled to be supporting the work of Rise Together. Really honored to share this space with you and to introduce our keynote speaker, Dr. Carmen Rojas. Dr. Rojas is the co-founder and CEO of the Workers Lab, an organization that builds power for working people in the 21st century. For more than 20 years, Carmen has worked with foundations, financial institutions, and nonprofits to improve the lives of working people across the United States. Now, through the Workers Lab, Carmen fights for living wages, proper benefits, a voice on the job, and more. Carmen and the Workers Lab are based in Oakland, California, but she shared with me earlier, she's actually a local and a native of here, Central San Jose. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Rojas.
I'm so happy to be here. As Jose mentioned, I'm from San Jose. My big brother lives maybe a quarter mile from here. I grew up going to Christmas in the Park every winter. And I may be the last generation of San Joseans that cruise Santa Clara Boulevard to try to find dates. So to both date myself and to just say thank you so much. I'm really so happy to be here at the Opportunity Summit. Any excuse that I have to share my work with an amazing group of people like you, I'll take it. And since it's here, it's an even greater gift. I come to this work by way of a pretty remarkable woman who, in the early 1960s, traveled across 4 countries in search of a better life for herself, for her family, and for her community. That woman is my mom. She lived in a small town in Nicaragua, second eldest of 17 kids, and started to see people around her wanting more, leaving Nicaragua, and made a decision that she was going to make a move to a place far different from the place that she was from. So in 1961, my mom left her family and community. She left the sights and sounds that brought her ease. She left it all really with the hopes of something more. She landed in San Francisco, a city far different from today's San Francisco, in a country far different than today's United States. My mom came at a magical time in the United States. When my mom landed, 35% of working people were members of a union. When my mom landed, the civil rights movement had started to take off, and my mom was really able to benefit from the gains advanced by leaders, mostly in the South, but across the country for racial justice. When my mom landed, the average CEO made 10 times more than their lowest paid employee. So my mom came at a time when we as a country committed to making sure that if you worked hard and played by the rules, that you would be able to benefit from the dream that America has promised so many. Her first job was sewing clothes, so she worked in a couple of, she worked at the Jessica McClintock factory in San Francisco, and she worked at the last Levi's factory in San Francisco, and she used to moonlight. She's like a pre-gig worker. She used to moonlight with my godmother, cleaning office buildings in San Francisco, and one day in that office building, she was offered a job, an entry-level job, and she took it. This was really the first moment that she started to really feel a material change in her life. And there's so many amazing things about that job. As an entry-level job, my mom was offered a living wage to live in San Francisco. It was an entry-level job that offered her and us full health benefits. It was an entry-level job that offered her 2 weeks paid vacation and gave her time off in case me or my brothers got sick. She quickly learned something else. So this job at a national bank offered her a no-interest loan to buy her first home. And so my mom was able to buy a house in San Francisco from an entry-level job, and this house was the rocket ship that launched my family out of poverty. My mom came to the US in a snapshot in time, and I hold that snapshot really close to me because I believe it's the snapshot in time when we were truly committed to making sure that all of us could thrive and do well in our economy and participate in our democracy. That moment started to slowly reverse in the 1970s and has taken us back to harrowing times today. If you're looking to pin the blame on somebody, we're going to need a whole lot of pins. But for me, there are three choices that we made as a country that set in motion this rapid reversal of the gains made when my mom came. The first choice was made by corporate leaders. So leaders started to untether the fate of their industry from the fate of working people. Many of them came out saying things like working people should be happy to have any job. And we started to normalize the language of the working poor, making it seem okay that somebody works 40, 60, 80 hours a week and is still unable to make ends meet. I believe that this is a critical break and a critical choice that we've made. Today, the average CEO makes 361 times more their lowest paid employee. The second choice we made was a choice around government and was made by a mix of politicians from both parties, academics, and corporate leaders. It was a choice to delegitimize government. It was a choice that advanced things like believing taxes were inherently bad or that government was never meant to serve us. And for us, we started to advance as a country a logic that government was Medusa in institutional form, where anything government interacted with was doomed to freeze and crumble to dust. We willfully neglected the amazing gains made by government when my mom immigrated. So things like Social Security that made sure that our elderly weren't doomed to die in destitutions. We ignored the gains of our public education system, which made it so that a whole generation of baby boomers were catapulted into the middle class. We ignored the gains of our roads, our streetlights, our national parks, water treatment facilities, training programs, and we ignored what they meant for millions of American people. We made a choice, and this second choice was to disentangle public institutions from public well-being. And the third choice I think we made was one to decimate labor unions. So when my mom immigrated, over 30% of people were members of a labor union. By the 1980s, that number had dropped to 18%. By 2000s, it was 14, and today less than 10% of workers are members of a union. And unions, I think, are a powerful institutional form. My dad is a Teamster, and I saw what it meant personally for me to participate in a union, but they also act as a very important check in our economy to help people so that people aren't concentrating wealth and well-being in the hands of a very few. And as that check has disappeared, so has the opportunity for all of us to benefit from the gains. These three choices, I believe, have been amplified by white supremacy and the unfounded belief that white people have worked harder, sacrificed more, done more in order to benefit from the disproportionate public representation, political representation, and financial representation they enjoy in our country. I believe that white supremacy has often been the motivating force behind these three choices and has been truly the thing that has held us back as a nation. These three choices, I believe, has had even us as progressives saying things like, if only we teach our kids 1,000 words, speak 1,000 or 10,000 words to our babies, or if only we learn how to code, if only we fill a skills gap. Underlying that story for me is if only Black and brown people mostly do a never-ending list of tasks and tortures, only then will we be able to benefit from the gains of the country that we have been critical to building. History has taught us different. The truth is that we've lived more years as a country with slavery and the primacy of white property rights than as a country with a middle class that offers all of its people equal access to quality education and a living wage. We've lived more years as a country with political leaders finding ways to keep Black and brown people from voting than with those same leaders trying to expand that right that helps us contest for power in this country. We've lived more years as a country in racially segregated neighborhoods, institutions, and schools than in integrated ones. Our history, unfortunately, is not one of forefathers who imagined a Carmen Rojas by way of my mom's miraculous story. They not only could not have imagined me, frankly, I believe that they built a set of institutions with features so deviant so that I may not ever exist. But because my mom came here at a specific moment in time where leaders made a bunch of different choices, here I am. And now it's really our turn. We should approach the choices in front of us with clear eyes and with a focus on what our communities deserve and not only what is palatable. We should approach these choices with radical honesty about our history as a nation. And we should approach these choices thinking about every single last one of us. At the Workers Lab, we've made the choice to use our lab, our pretty amazing place to experiment, test, and dream like my mom did 50 years ago, to create solutions to the critical issues facing working people in this country. So we've supported the creation of a construction cooperative on the Pine Ridge Reservation in South Dakota, where they're experiencing a really crazy housing crisis, but white developers weren't willing to hire Native construction workers. They built their own company, and we helped fund that. We're supporting the creation of a staffing agency in Baltimore, Maryland, that's owned by folks who have previously been incarcerated and who are both low-wage and high-wage workers who now both get to benefit from the gains of the company. And in San Francisco, we're partnering with the city to actually make sure that SFO workers have access to $1,000 when they need it. So this is like the common fact that's thrown around. 70% of Americans can't afford a $1,000 unexpected expense, and their only option historically has been payday lending. What we're doing is saying there should be an alternative, and the city and county of San Francisco is piloting a $1,000 grant fund for SFO workers so that they can actually offer a true alternative to payday lending. Each of these innovations comes to us from people on the front lines with the greatest proximity to the issues facing working people. People not far from here, folks like Somos Mayfair here in San Jose, I feel like come to mind as the leaders who are tirelessly working for an economy that works for all of us. Each of these innovations was brought to us by a community member that knows deep down in their heart that working people across our country should be able to take time off with family and should be able to make enough money to keep a safe roof over their heads and to keep food on the table. Frankly, each of these innovations comes to us from people like you, people who are committed to bringing to life the dream that America has promised so many. I'm so glad to be here to share my story with you guys and the journey of my family. I'm so glad because, frankly, I think you guys are the ones that we've been waiting for. And I'm excited to see the choices that you'll make over today and over the next coming years. I'm excited to have the opportunity to open up the RISE session, and I want to thank you for having me and for your commitment to making every day a good day for working people in this country.